It's no secret that car prices have absolutely skyrocketed over the last couple of years. And while, of course, the increase in car prices can be attributed to things like the pandemic, chip shortages, supply and demand, and more, we also can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is the sub $20,000 car. Or, I guess, the death of the sub $20,000 car. Over the last few years, the sub $20,000 car has become a rare breed in the automotive space. And buyers who are looking for an affordable new vehicle have had their selection decreased year after year after year. And this is leaving buyers who are looking for that sub 20 grand vehicle with fewer and fewer options, many of which look as though they're going to be discontinued very soon, leaving buyers with no options when it comes to that sub $20,000 car. The Mitsubishi Mirage is currently one of the few new cars on the market that you can purchase for less than $20,000. The hatchback version can be purchased with the starting price of $16,695, and the slightly higher-end sedan version, the Mirage G4, starts at $17,245. But in a report released just this month by Automotive News, it looks as though Mitsubishi is going to be discontinuing the Mirage come 2025, which I know 2025 sounds as though it is extremely far away, but it's actually right around the corner. But the Mitsubishi Mirage isn't the only sub $20,000 car that is on the chopping block, because it also looks as though the Kia Rio is getting the axe as well. The Kia Rio has been sold in the United States since 2001, and it has an MSRP of $16,450, making it one of the most affordable new cars on the market today. And it has been reported within the last week that it looks as though the Kia Rio will be coming to an official end here in North America this year, and that it's not going to be returning for 2024. The alleged discontinuation of the Kia Rio as well as the Mitsubishi Mirage are just two of the different examples of the budget new car disappearing over the last couple of years. And in addition to the Mitsubishi Mirage as well as the Kia Rio, there's been a slew of others that have also been discontinued. For example, the Hyundai Accent, which was built on the same platform as the Kia Rio, was discontinued back in 2022. The Toyota Yaris was discontinued in 2020, as was the Honda Fit, as well as a slew of other vehicles including the Ford Fiesta, Ford Focus, Chevy Spark, and more, leaving buyers with only one loan option when it comes to a vehicle with an MSRP of under 20 grand, the Nissan Versa. And even then, there is a debate on whether or not you can actually count the Nissan Versa as a sub $20,000 car, because once you tack on all of the additional fees, the destination charge, things like that, it is virtually impossible to actually buy a new Nissan Versa for under 20 grand. So technically speaking, there are really no options out there for that budget buyer. So if you do want that out the door price of 20 grand or less, your options are, well, nothing. Now, this is really unfortunate, and it's absolutely a contributing factor as to why new cars have gone up in price over the last few years. Because if you look at the average price of a new car, of course, if you're going to take away all of the cheapest options that are bogging down that average, the total average is in turn going to go up, and that is exactly what has been happening. Not only that, but this also has a trickle-down effect to the used car market as well, because as budget buyers have been priced out of the new car market, they are in turn turning to the used car market as well. And as these more expensive vehicles hit the used market, they are hitting it with a higher price point. This is causing used cars across the board to be less affordable, which isn't great news either. And I do get concerned that this is going to have long-term effects on the used car market, and it could end up causing used car prices to go up long-term. Not necessarily up from where prices are now, but definitely up from where prices were pre-pandemic. So all in all, this is just bad news for the budget buyer. And as much as I would like to sit here and place 100% of the blame on the automaker, I don't necessarily think that that's fair. Because while automakers absolutely deserve some of the blame as to why cars have become unaffordable and why cheaper models are being discontinued, they absolutely don't deserve all of it. You see, the reason why automakers are shying away from that sub $20,000 car really comes down to two key reasons. The first reason is profit, specifically profit margin. Higher trim, higher price point vehicles have a higher margin, and thus they're more profitable. It's why you're seeing once budget brands like Kia and Hyundai introducing more exciting and more expensive vehicles. It's why brands like Ford and Toyota have gotten rid of all of their budget cars and are thinning out their lineup of sedans in favor of high trim, larger, and more expensive cars. Profit margin is absolutely a reason as to why the budget vehicle is disappearing. but it isn't the only reason. And when it comes to the second reason, in some regards, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Because the reality is the budget car is disappearing in part because there was very little demand for these types of cars. Nobody was really buying the sub $20,000 vehicle, and thus automakers decided to take it out of their lineup. For example, the Kia Rio. Sales of the Kia Rio in 2021 totaled only 31,362 units. In 2022, they totaled 27,065 units, and in 2023, from January to July, they totaled only 16,551 units. To give you a comparison, let's look at the Kia Seltos, which is Kia's entry-level crossover. The Kia Seltos sold 51,368 units in 2021, 44,897 units in 2022, and they sold 37,674 units so far in 2023. We can also compare this to the Kia Telluride, which I know is a completely different segment of vehicle compared to the Kia Rio, but the reason why I think it's worth making the comparison is because cars like the Kia Telluride is where the car market is trending. It's what people are buying, it's what automakers are catering to. So while the Kia Telluride and the Kia Rio are very different vehicles, I still think that the Kia Telluride tells us a lot as to where the auto market is heading. Because let's face it, people love their luxury SUVs. When we look at the Kia Telluride, it sold 93,705 units in 2021, 99,564 units in 2022, and 65,043 units from January to July of 2023. So significantly more than the Kia Rio, despite the fact that the price point is significantly higher. Let's also take a look at the Mitsubishi Mirage. The Mitsubishi Mirage only sold 22,741 units in 2021, and they sold even less in 2022 with 15,814 units. So far in 2023, they've only sold 5,316 units. To compare this, let's look at one of Mitsubishi's best-selling vehicles, the Mitsubishi Outlander. And you can see that the Mitsubishi Outlander sold 36,133 units in 2021, 40,940 units in 2022, and so far they've sold 24,183 units in 2023. The reality is the data doesn't lie, and the majority of people don't want these base-level, super basic vehicles that cost anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000. And as a result, people just aren't buying them. And you know what? I absolutely cannot blame them, because if I had $20,000 on a car budget, there is absolutely no way I would buy either a Kia Rio, a Mitsubishi Mirage, or a Nissan Versa. I would 100% hit the used car market, because for a similar price to a new Mitsubishi Mirage or Kia Rio, you can buy a used Hyundai Sonata like this 2016 model with 16,000 miles for under 18 grand. Or if you wanted to go a bit more expensive, you could get something like this 2020 Hyundai Sonata, which has an updated body style and is significantly nicer and better than a Mirage. The truth is that people are not only not buying these sub $20,000 vehicles because they're buying SUVs and more luxury vehicles, but they're also not buying them because, let's face it, these cars are sort of crap. You can buy significantly nicer cars and more reliable ones for around the same price point used as you can buy a Kia Rio or a Mitsubishi Mirage used. And truthfully, the only people who are buying a new Kia Rio or Mirage instead of a used vehicle are the people who prioritize new vehicles over everything else, which just isn't the majority of car buyers. So people aren't buying these budget sub $20,000 cars as much as they used to, and as a result, automakers aren't making them anymore. And while of course this is disappointing to anybody who is looking for a new budget car, this really shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. But what I do find a bit surprising is the sheer number of vehicles that are getting discontinued outside of the budget segment, because the shift that we're seeing in the auto market today is really an interesting one. Because budget cars aren't the only ones that have been getting the axe in recent years. In fact, a number of sedans and coupes have also been discontinued in favor of SUVs, crossovers, and trucks. For example, this year alone, the Dodge Challenger and Charger, the Chevy Camaro, Chrysler 300, Genesis G70, Kia Stinger, Mercedes CLS, and a variety of coupe variations for Mercedes, the Nissan Maxima, as well as a slew of others have been announced as being discontinued. And the vast majority of the cars that have been announced to be discontinued in 2023 or in recent years are cars that do not fit the SUV, crossover, or truck segment. In fact, it's estimated that the SUV segment of vehicles is expected to have a compound annual growth rate of 14.9% between now and 2030, which is the average annual growth that this segment of vehicles is going to experience annually between now and the next 7 years. The truth is, the luxury SUV market is growing not only because automakers want to make more money, but also because it's what we're buying. And if people aren't buying budget cars, then why would automakers make them? And so as long as we continue to buy these high-priced luxury SUVs, we can probably expect to see these more budget cars continue to disappear, and thus the average price of a new car probably will continue to go up, at least slightly. Or at the very least, it's not going to be going down significantly in the next few years.